Welcome to Culture Vine, the podcast where we talk about culture, media, technology, and everything in between. Hi, my name is Marcy. I'm your host for today's podcast, and I'm here with my co-host, Mari.
Hi, I'm Mari.
This is our first episode. We actually have been recording this podcast for a little while now, but we were experimenting with format and what we actually how we wanted to do the podcast. So this is our official first episode.
Yay!
So it's gonna go a little bit differently than how we usually did it in our trial versions. We're just gonna talk first a little bit about how the podcast came to be and what was our inspiration for it, and then we're gonna go into the theme for today.
Yeah.
So the name of the podcast is Culture Vine, as you guys probably know. That was influenced by our we did a master's together in media and culture. So that's where culture comes from, and Vine was because we are usually drinking a little bit of wine while we are recording the podcast. But yeah, Mari, do you want to maybe start telling a little bit about how we came up with the idea for the podcast?
Yeah. So during university, we were learning a lot about media and technology and how they influence our lives and how we should be critical about such things around us. And we were reading a lot, writing a lot, but we weren't really doing anything that makes a real impact on our society or culture or even our friends. We weren't doing any sort of action. And then we felt quite frustrated. But how can we use our knowledge to,
start a conversation?
Yeah.
Even.
Start a conversation, push our knowledge forward for the society. Some people just don't have the opportunity to study in the city or in the university master's degree. But what we are going to talk about in these podcast series, but also what we studied during our master's, so relevant for everyone. So yeah, we just wanted to get the discussion going.
Yeah, and just a little bit of a backstory maybe. So Mari and I both live in Amsterdam. We went to the University of Amsterdam. We graduated in our master's there, which makes us
Magisters?
Yes. So we're magisters. It's weird because you always hear when people are PhDs, they're PhDs, but what happens after you get a master's, no one really knows. Apparently you are a magister. We looked it up on Wikipedia. But yeah, and I'm originally from Brazil. I've been living in Amsterdam for 5 years now. And Mari?
Yeah, I'm originally from Japan. I'm also living here for a while now. But we both did a pretty similar life adventures.
Yes.
We both did exchange years in Europe. But we were also studying first in North America for our bachelor's, and then we did 1 year exchange in Europe, and we were like, oh, Europe is awesome, and we came back to Europe for our master's program.
Yes. Yeah. It's really crazy. When we met, we were like, wow, these similarities are really interesting, actually.
It was literally seeing a mirror.
Even though we come from completely different cultures, but that's something else that we want to kind of try to explore in the podcast is our different backgrounds, but also our experiences. And we are very similar in many aspects and different in others.
Very different.
Yes. But so for today's episode, we wanted to start with something we're very passionate about, which is work. And this sounds wrong because we're not passionate about work. We're passionate about how work functions in our society.
Yeah, exactly. How work plays a role in our life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we can be passionate about work, but I think we both have had experiences in our lives that were borderline a little bit traumatizing or just not necessarily optimal. And this is kind of what made us, yes, we talked so much about this in university. We talked so much about this with our friends. We talked so much about work between each other. We're always complaining, talking, thinking. And it's it keeps being this loop,
Never ends.
So we need to put it out there.
Exactly. put an end
or a beginning
to our new chapter.
To a new chapter.
Yes.
All right. And then what's interesting, and I think the way to start off this conversation is I had 2 burnouts already. I just had my second burnout. So I recently quit my job. I used to work as a film producer. I'm kind of rediscovering my life at the moment. I'm only working part-time. And Maddie also quit her job.
Yeah, I used to have 2 quite big corporate jobs. Yeah, it just didn't work well for me. And I had a little bit of a micromanagement situation. So that's why it just didn't fit into my ideal work environment. So
understandable.
Yeah.
So I kind of just want to talk a little bit about that. It's like, what are our limits? Why are they there? How is our current work culture in general? Why do we work as much as we work? Why do we talk so much about work and about the negative aspects of it and cannot find solutions? And we see so many people frustrated with their work conditions, especially young adults, which are kind of what we're focusing on today. And at the same time, of course, you see other stories of people that are happy, and are those cases, are those is that becoming more prevalent? So just kind of talking a little bit more in general about our work culture. But yeah, so to kickstart our conversation. So Maddie, you recently quit. What were the last 2 jobs that you were doing before you quit?
So right after I graduated from my master's program,
mm-hmm.
I started working at the biggest Japanese bank, the European headquarters in Amsterdam. And I was a risk analyst. And it was the job itself was kind of boring, but also at the same time not the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And I had pretty nice colleagues there, actually. But also the Japanese hierarchy stuff was a little bit too much because it's the biggest Japanese bank and there are lots of Japanese expats coming in from Japan, and the hierarchy is there, people working until 12 a.m. and stuff. Of course, I wasn't working like that, but still, it was not nice to feel that other people, so the expats from Japan, were exposed to such culture and they were practicing it, and they just don't really talk about it, and I thought it was weird.
But why do you think even though you guys were in the Netherlands, that culture, this very Japanese almost workaholic culture, was still a thing? Was it peer pressure? Was it the company? What made you guys have to work in that way?
Definitely peer pressure. But also, our department, they were mostly Japanese expats being sent from the Japan office.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they chose to come here. They were forced to come here, right? So it's not like me who chose to study here and chose to stay in Amsterdam. It's not like that for them. So it's the Japanese working culture is within them, and they have to represent Japan.
Why do you think they wouldn't come here and be okay, these are the work standards, better for me, I can work a little bit less, or I can leave at 5 like I'm supposed to?
I don't know why, but I think for them it's not an option. It feels they are here, they as in the bank itself, it's here because they have a connection with other Japanese companies in Europe, the other European headquarters of Japanese corporates. Because, Panasonic or whatever, those big companies, they do exist in Europe, and they want to have a Japanese bank account, but in Europe. So most of the customers there, I think, are pretty much Japanese corporates. And that's why a lot of the people that the sales representatives at the bank need to talk to are also Japanese people or people who are working at the Japanese companies in Europe. And then it's just they continue to be so hierarchical or so polite and so workaholic, I think.
And that's something you actively wanted to avoid.
Yes. But as a foreigner working in Europe, it's hard to find a job that makes you happy, but at the same time sponsors you your visa to stay. So you can legally stay here without any worries, but it's hard because usually in order to sponsor a person as a company, you need to pay a little extra. And a lot of the companies don't want to pay a little extra for a junior position. Because why? Right? You can get another European person cheaper.
So is one of the reasons, because like, of course you traveled a lot, so you did a lot of exchange programs and etc. But is one of the reasons why you wanted to stay in Europe afterwards because you want to avoid this type of culture?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
And then the opposite happened.
The opposite happened because I just had to get a work visa. Otherwise, I couldn't have stayed here.
Yeah. But I mean, in the sense of like you got stuck with the Japanese people you didn't want to work with.
Yeah.
And then what did you do after that?
And afterwards, I was employed by a Dutch company, but they needed someone who can talk Japanese because they have a Japanese project. And there I was working mainly in Japanese as well, working with people in Japan. And that was a little less hierarchical, but still, I was by far the youngest, like youngest by 10 years, 15 years maybe. I felt a little bit of a pressure for not embarrassing myself.
But isn't that hard to like speak or be formal or whatever?
For me, I just don't really feel like I'm being myself when I'm talking in the Japanese polite way of speaking.
So keigo.
Keigo.
And is there no way you can just not speak keigo?
No way.
Like, what would happen hypothetically?
People would judge me hardcore, and I feel like people wouldn't trust me to do their work.
What?
Yeah.
But like normally in real life you don't speak keigo.
You do.
You do?
Yeah. Like normally, like with your teachers and stuff, whoever is older than you.
Okay.
You use keigo.
Alright.
Or a bit of a lesser version of keigo, but not like how you would speak with your friends.
And was this something you ever discussed with your teammates? Like, yo, I hate speaking keigo. Can we just like go into informal talk?
No, I can't. I was a coward, maybe. I just didn't have the guts to say that. And I thought about this to like other people, like employees there, but foreigners.
Oh, okay.
And they wouldn't understand because they don't know this concept.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, you know this concept, but you actually don't really understand.
Yeah, I can't wrap my head around it, you know?
Like, you don't feel it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's the hardest part when I'm talking, like, when I'm complaining about this to my friends, because they're like, oh, but why would that be so hard? Because it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because in our society, it's just not acceptable if you can't speak politely to your elders. Elders, okay, someone who's older than you.
Or in a business context, I'm guessing. But isn't that kind of changing?
It is changing. It's definitely changing. Thank God. But still, if you are like so much younger than other people, then you should definitely be talking somewhat politely. And because I left Japan when I was 16, I just didn't really have that context.
In the practice.
Yeah. So I just don't really know. I know how. But me being just myself, I don't feel like I'm honest. I'm being honest when I'm talking in keigo.
That's so interesting because I kind of feel the same but opposite, and in a way lesser extent. Like, I feel like your example was extreme. Like, this is an important thing to your society, you know? But, well, after living here, I've done all of my whole adult life, I've been abroad, and I've had all my jobs that I had so far have been in English. So I don't have a lot of practice with business Portuguese or how to communicate via emails. I'm fluent in Portuguese 100%. I'm better in Portuguese than I am in English, for sure, speaking. But it's just those little, like, email things. Like, how do you say, hello, blah, 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 kind regards, etc. Like, I had no idea how to do that whenever I had to speak to, like, Brazilians.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt so awkward because I always felt more formal than I should be. And then they would reply back with being like, okay, hugs. And I'm like, what? You know? And it's just really weird to navigate that. I wish there was, like, an international code of fucking business language that we could adhere to. I actually saw on TikTok, today, I think, was it today, yesterday, I don't know, about, like, Gen Z, corporations or companies, new companies doing, like, crazy, like, email greetings, like, later, or like thanks bye with like an X, you know, at the end, and some really crazy stuff. And I was like, wow, that would be nice, you know?
That'd be so nice.
But it's crazy how this whole pressure is put in by the environment and the people, you know. Sometimes it's even your colleagues, and I can remember multiple times where I probably asked or told a colleague, like, yeah, you shouldn't reply like this, or you should do this, or you should like flourish, or like say more thingies, or say less thingies, be more direct and be less direct. It's like such a whole thing that creates so much anxiety in the workplace that really shouldn't be this anxiety driven.
Yeah, exactly. Communication, right? At the end of the day, communication is about expressing your thoughts, just
your needs
or demands or your ideas. It's not about how you convey. Of course, it's important how you convey it, but not the language around it. Yeah. I feel.
And we put so much importance as a society in general into the appearance of things, you know. It's like how you can come off as, how you portray yourself, and it's just such needless bullshit.
So pretentious.
Yeah. It's very infuriating. I wonder if that is gonna die down as older generations die out. I'm not trying to be dark, just like, you know, realistic. Or if this is something that, like, we get so traumatized over and beaten about that we also end up passing that. Because I remember telling my coworkers, like, yeah, you should write it like this or like that. And it's just like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
I feel like it's going to be less and less.
I hope so.
Like, our generation is so done with this, right? At least in our bubble.
Yeah.
But still, like, in banking, in finance, that kind of culture will live quite strongly.
So that's another interesting thing to ask you, actually, because you worked, I know these two companies, one was a big bank, the other one wasn't a big company, but you also worked for a nonprofit.
I did.
Yeah. I know your life story.
Yes. I almost forgot.
So, like, how this is something that I think would be kind of, because my main work experiences have been in, like, small studios or, like, small publishing houses, things like that. Now I'm working part-time for a corporate, but I'm just interested in kind of knowing, work culture-wise, what is the difference? Because what I see a lot of people not explicitly saying, but being more like, okay, maybe if you work for a different type of company, like, it will be better, or the work culture will be better, or you can not talk Keigo, or you can write your emails the way you want, like, you have more flexibility. But is that the truth in your experience? How different was it with the nonprofit and the more corporate side of things?
Yes, I think, so for me, the nonprofit experience was one of my first jobs and it was very, very chill. Like, of course, it was purpose driven. People were quite passionate about what they were doing. They were very excited about what we were doing, and they were very hardworking people. And of course, work hard, play hard kind of mentality was there.
That's a problem
That's
with
a problem.
the small companies,
I
you know?
Anyway, I started there as an intern, so I was not working full time. But I know like my managers or like supervisors, colleagues, okay, they were working quite, hard in terms of hours. And they would kind of like think it as like a norm. So I thought that was a little bit toxic. But I found it pretty chill. They also found it very important to take a rest. So they were okay with like other people taking like a long vacation. When they're off, they're off.
But if you think about it, also in a way, like, let's try to take out our biases of what work life is and think about this in an objective way. That should be just a given.
It should be.
It shouldn't be like, oh, wow, they did that. It's just like, that should be the bare minimum.
Yeah. See, we are like brainwashed in that way. We're like, oh my god, so nice that
they gave me vacation. Yeah. Wow. But I left home and I managed to cook dinner. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, they should provide that. But anyway, so that kind of work culture was there. But it was really like work from anywhere, everywhere. Quite.
I think that's a little bit easier here too, right? Because we have such a big expat community. I think it's more of a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And also the nonprofit that I was working for, they didn't have an office. They were like all the employees were working from home or co-working space in their own country. So it was nice. Like I could go to another country, stay there for a week, but I could still work. Mm-hmm. So there was no boundaries in that sense.
Yeah, I think honestly, this experience that you're telling me, very much encapsulate kind of like what I wanted to discuss today. Also in regards to like this whole new concept we're having in like work from home, remote work, etc., which in flexible ways of working. And I just wonder, are these flexible ways of working good for the employees and the employers and in equal ways? What I'm saying is basically, okay, you had the corporate job that sucks sometimes, yeah? But you had the nonprofit job that people were kind of crazy sometimes too. I had the small studio job where people were very crazy a lot of the times, And it's just, are these, I feel like, okay, this is gonna be, I'm not even discussing this anymore, I'm just saying it, but like it's just mitigating ways to be like, okay, let's put like a little flower on this like ugly ass like turd, this shitty thing, but we're gonna put a flower on it. Oh, so look, the flowers. Nice. There's no turd, there's just a flower. Yeah. And that's what baffles me a little bit. And it's the way that, even if we think about the way that we're talking right now, and you tell me this, and I'm like, okay, that's really great. But I think it's really great because I'm so conditioned to the bad that this seems like okay, but is it okay?
Like, why are we so satisfied with the bad?
With the bare minimum of things. Okay, we just turned this like very nice level discussion into like what the hell?
Bomb.
Exactly. But what I'm thinking more is it's like, are we actually making strides for the better? In the sense of like, we can work from home, we can work remotely, people are more aware of mental health issues, we're more aware of blah blah blah, this and that. Or are these just, how do you call that?
Labels?
No. When you put like a plaster on an open wound. Because like, why did you quit 3 jobs in the past 5 years. Why did I have 2 burnouts in the past 5 years? Are we crazy? We might be.
But I don't think so.
If you think about our friends, how many are happy with their work life?
One person in my environment.
Who?
You don't know.
Oh, damn it.
But I did
I
one
don't know
time.
a friend of yours.
So you don't. One time I did this Instagram polls, the survey functions.
Oh, that was so interesting.
It was interesting. I asked them because I was so depressed about my work environment. I also knew about what Marcy was going through. So I wondered how many people are actually happy with the job. I posted this story. So many people reacted actually. Not with yes or no, but with a comment. They said, if you find someone who's happy about their work, please let me know. Some other people say, please let me know how to be happy about the job. And only one person said yes. I'm satisfied.
Wow. Yeah, that's really crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, how did we get here? 1. And how do we leave this place? 2. And of course, I have my very Marxist theories about how capitalism fucked everything up. But I think more important than that is, honestly, I think the core of all the problems, and this is a very personal opinion, is no one should be working 40 hours a week.
No.
That's just inhuman. That was like a random ass established rule back in the fucking Industrial Revolution. Which was considered a gain because before it was like 6 days a week, like work life or whatever. But like we're not living in the Industrial Revolution. We're living in contemporary society where like, dude, if I'm taking like an hour, 2 hours just commuting back and forth from work, then I'm working 8 hours a day. I'm getting 8 hours of sleep. What's the math in that? 16 plus 1, 17. How much do I have left?
8.
5.
Oh. Wait, what did you say? 8?
Okay, so I'm working 8 hours.
Yeah.
Sleeping 8.
Yeah,
That's 16. Commuting an hour, that's 17.
17.
24 minus 17?
So 7.
7.
Yeah.
Okay, holy shit, I'm so bad at math. 7 hours. Okay, let's see. I have to like cook, take a shower, take a dump.
2 hours.
Yeah, feed myself a day. So 5 hours left. Okay, so I have 5 hours left of my day. That's being generous as fuck.
That is being so optimistic.
Yeah, that's being hella optimistic that I'm gonna take like, that I can sleep like 8 hours, wake up and just like go and do my things and not just be like, oh, I'm in bed for 45 minutes. 5 hours is nothing.
5 hours is nothing. So if we get anything, it's just 5 hours.
If we do everything perfectly,
yeah,
it's 5 hours.
And it doesn't happen. So we probably only have like 1 to 2 hours a day.
And that's for what? For friends, for family, for entertainment, for debriefing, like your life, for like therapy, for going to the store, for sports, for... It's really crazy if you think about it.
Yeah.
I remember something that that happened back at the studio where I used to work with. I didn't know I was getting burned out because when you're getting burned out, you are very blind to the burnout itself. Marty probably knew.
I knew.
But I didn't. I was very in denial about it. But I just worked. I went home just to sleep, woke up, went back to work, just work like a crazy person. But at some point, after my first burnout at least, we started talking as a company, and this is where it gets frustrating because people were aware of this, but we didn't know how to fix it because the competition is so hard for a small studio that sometimes, and I'm not excusing how things were done, maybe there was a different way and etc., but like sometimes it's very hard to compete with other places if you're not working 24/7. But we talked about it a lot of times, and what I realized is after a while I couldn't even be creative anymore. I didn't have ideas because if I'm not consuming anything, if I'm not consuming media, if I'm not watching movies, if I'm not reading books, if I'm not having a conversation with my friends, there's nothing to get ideas from.
No inspiration whatsoever.
Yeah. And this is the black hole that we're living in.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's quite well portrayed by the Netflix series Agretsuko as well.
Oh my god, Agretsuko is like the best.
Agretsuko is a animation series, 15 minutes per episode. It's made by the same studio as Hello Kitty, which is quite interesting. A very cute animation style, but very dark.
Dark is good.
Yeah, the main character is this 25-year-old
Panda.
red panda who is working in Tokyo as what does she do? Accounting manager or something like that. And she has like all these colleagues and very, very strict, annoying boss. And yeah, anyway, you need to watch it, but the core of this is that how every like young professional, they just started like their first career like a few years ago or recently, they struggle so much in finding their own place and finding like what work is and what it means, because we are so conditioned by this ideal idea that we should be doing something that we like, but it's so hard. We just gotta pay our bills. We have to sustain ourselves. So then we have to get some money from the jobs that we are given to, right?
Yeah, these discourses are just so antagonistic in this way, in the sense of like you hear so many different things, like you have to sustain yourself, you have to make money, you should buy a house, but at the same time you should work in something that you love, you should find your passion, blah blah blah, and then you turn your passions or hobbies into work, and then you suffer like I did, and everything is just so overwhelming.
It is overwhelming.
But Agretsuko really portrays that so well. And I didn't tell you this, but actually I made my mom and my brother, who is 17, watch Agretsuko together.
Did they like it?
My mother called me after. She was like, "Is this autobiographical by you?" I was like, "No, I did not write the script, Mom." She was like, "It's you in a TV show." I was like, "It's just, it portrays a lot of the dilemmas that people in my age feel."
It's everyone.
It's everyone.
It is everyone.
Yeah, she said it was crazy though, but she doesn't like cartoons. But she liked it, I think. She thought I think it really made her think. Because one of the things that I really fight with my mom sometimes is she's being like, when I was your age, it was also hard. I also didn't make money. I also blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, I get it. It was hard. I'm sure it was. But it's very different from the context we live today.
Yeah.
We live in a completely different society with different expectations, with different modes of communication, with different saturations of the work market that make it very, very difficult to navigate. And I'm not saying it wasn't back then. It's just different.
It is different. And also, like, the challenges that we're facing as a global community is also very different nowadays. Climate change was not much of a deal back then, but now we have to really think about it. Otherwise, we will all die.
I think also the abundance of information we get it's really overwhelming. It's what I was thinking when we started the episode. It's like, we hear about these success stories of like these really interesting companies, but then none of our friends are happy, and we had very shitty experiences. It's like, where do these stories come from? What the information we get and our realities sometimes can differ so much that it makes such a hard sense for us to just process and make sense of what is the actual reality we live in. Is it my reality? Is it yours? Is it our friends? Is it the internet? Is it TikTok? Is it the news? It's so much.
It is a lot to take in.
And sometimes I think about that, like maybe I should just be an accountant, or I couldn't because I'm not qualified. But like something of the sort is like maybe I should just do that, have my 9 to 5, and then just be done with it, not stress out, and blah blah blah. But at the same time, I also think a 9 to 5 is ridiculous and completely unfair. So it's like, what do I do with all of these emotions?
We just feel helpless.
Yes.
Right? And we feel like we can't do anything. We're just
Yes.
like this little particle in the society.
Yeah.
Of course, we can change some things.
And but we talk so much and change nothing at the end. That's what's wrong with academia.
That is why we're doing this.
I guess. Circles back to it.
Yeah, full circle.
Well, last thing I kind of wanted to talk about, this is, I guess this is a more reflexive episode than anything, but I think it touches a lot on our reality and the dilemmas that both you and I are living right now. But I wanted to bring up one point of actual theory that I think really applies to this and really makes me think. I read this book once called I have the name here, 24/7 Late Capitalism and the End of Sleep. Did I talk to you too much about this book?
24/7 was kind of like our Bible during our masters. I read this book.
You read this too?
Of course I did.
But I think I read it in a Marxist class.
It doesn't matter. I also read this in new media class, I think.
Really?
Yeah. Great book. So dark, so depressed. So
everything that like is dark and depressing.
Yeah. But it's so realistic in a way, although it's sad.
So just to put like why I wanted to bring up this book and why I think it's so relevant. We talked a little bit before about like how the Industrial Revolution changed how we work and the routine of work, right? Because back before, let's say, hunter-gatherers or medieval times or whatever, while hunter-gatherers work, I'm gonna be very ignorant. I'm sorry if there are people listening to this who are hunter-gatherers, like experts. I had like one class about hunter-gatherers when I was in my bachelor's, and I don't remember a lot, but like I think their cycle of work was like just during like following the animals and during the day and blah blah blah. They worked very little. That's one thing I remember. Then like after agriculture became kind of a thing, the cycle of work became around like agriculture.
Yeah.
So like daylight, blah blah blah, etc. Industrial Revolution came this weird 9 to 5 thing, which is interesting because actually I read a thing from the Washington Post that we are very not productive after 1 p.m. and humans are only meant to work in mornings.
Oh.
Yeah. But I completely fail this assessment because I'm terrible in the morning and I actually work much better at night. So it works well for my own argument against 9 to 5, but it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, the same thing is that so only mornings. Or maybe like the other article was also saying like 4 days a week, work week. What? Yeah. Is as productive as 5 days a week.
Of course, but what this one was saying is that like you can only be productive like hardcore, like I don't know, like 3-4 hours a day.
Perfect.
And then you're like, you know. But anyway, where I'm going with this is like all of these work routines, schedules, etc. follow something or have been man-made. And then what Crary talks about in this book is that now, because we have access to work and 24/7 and we have like connection to the world 24/7, that our work life is becoming 24/7. It's not 9 to 5. It's 24/7. That's definitely what I lived in the film studio, because I would receive text messages at 11 p.m. and I had to reply to them, or emails, because it came from Los Angeles and things were urgent and blah blah blah, and like you have to be productive at all times. And even if you're not working, proactively at your job and checking messages and emails. You're working in the sense that you are being productive for society in some way. You're consuming a film, you're consuming something, you're just always generating something. And I think the core of the problem is this aspect of productivity, and we're being molded into like squishy productive ducks, with squish productivity. And of course that's in the interest of corporations and money making and whatever. And honestly, at the same time, this is why like it's illegal to kill yourself, because you're actually a you're good. You're like, you belong to the government, you're good of society. That's why you can't kill yourself, because you can produce. Like all of our value as a person is reduced to being productive.
Yeah, productive meaning work, reproducing, all of that.
Exactly, anything that can generate money. And maybe
and workforce.
Exactly. And this scares me so much, because yeah, we are so conscious about how unhealthy this is and blah blah, but at the same time I do feel like we're falling into this 24/7 vibe, because even if we're not consciously working, we are working somehow.
Yeah, thank God, like all the young professionals, they are like really hard on like 9 to 5. After that, I don't check any emails, don't Slack me, don't send me message, I won't check it. I think it's good that
that's the minimum too.
Yeah, exactly. But it's good that it's happening, because it wasn't like that. You weren't experiencing that. I also not. But I think anyway, like you said, consuming a film or scrolling through our social media feed, liking some stuff, they all generate some sort of profit for a company, a big company. And we are always surrounded by advertisements, and we are unconsciously consuming them, but they do affect our cognitive faculty and ideology around it. And how can we get out of it? Is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing?
I guess like, now that you say like young people are being more conscious about the 9 to 5, maybe, and I think that is a problem that I have personally, that I think too globally about things, and I'm just like, oh, everything sucks, capitalism is the worst, we're all gonna die, I hate everything, etc. Which is true, but not a very productive way to think about things. So maybe it is the baby steps, it's like, yeah, our life is fucking, it's a mess, and there's so many aspects about it that just makes me anxious and angry. But if you think about all of those at the same time, you get so overwhelmed. So maybe let's start with the 9 to 5 and not replying to text after. No, can we go a little bit more in that? We should start with the 4 days a week, 9 to 5.
Definitely. 4 days a week is...
Dude, we need legislation for this.
Yeah.
Please, one politician can please just say that, and then everyone's gonna vote for them.
Everyone's gonna vote for that.
Dude.
Like Iceland is so proactive in that sense.
They did a test,
pilot. Yeah.
But did the pilot pass?
I don't know what it ended up being like.
We should check that.
We should check that.
Oh, my phone, I can't.
Oh.
Okay, we'll bring it up on another episode, but I know they did a pilot and it was good.
Successful.
But I want them to implement it.
Yeah.
And then everyone can follow suit.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Iceland should be the leader in
3-day weekend should be a universal human right.
Yeah, I think so too. Because who thought 5 days
it's
working, 2 days of rest? What
I can tell you who thought, though. I think it was Ford who implemented that. But before it was 6 days a week, so he actually bettered shit. I don't know if it was actually Ford. I could be saying shit right now.
But anyway, 2 multiplied by 2 is still 4. So we're working way more than our rest days.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
No.
So yeah, like our manifesto.
Our manifesto is 4 days a week.
Yeah.
9 to 5.
9 to 5, or let's just say 8 hours.
Which is a very, like, chill manifesto.
It's so achievable.
Back in the 30s, they had a manifesto for 15-hour work.
Can we go back to that?
The 30s weren't that good, though. So I think we're good here. But baby steps.
Baby steps at a time, but realistic and feasible steps.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we won't achieve a bigger goal.
Very true. But yeah, I think this might be the conclusion. We went around a little bit in circles, but I think everything connects at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Or that's my wishful thinking.
Yeah, I just hope that everyone won't have any mental problem from work.
I think everyone will, though.
I know, but just because of the current situation.
Yeah.
Like, if people think, let's chill, then I think
we'll chill.
We'll chill.
Okay, everyone, let's think. Let's chill. Then our mental problems are gone.
Let's keep working towards a better future.
Thank you for listening anyway. Hope to see you in the next episode.
Yes.
Goodbye.